Guess who's got 2 thumbs and more Final Smash facts? Guess who's got 1 thumb and more Final Smash facts? That's right, I felt like doing a, I guess, sequel to my last upload. I guess they're all sequels, aren't they? But whatever. I would recommend watching that if you haven't already, though it won't be mandatory to understanding this video. Basically, there were a few things from that video that I really want to follow up on, and not to mention I've just got plenty more interesting facts regarding Final Smashes that I could talk about anyways. So let's just hop into it. In my last video, I brought up how Peach and Daisy's Final Smash has the incredibly unique and bizarre side effect of universally removing the hitbox of the Instadrop spirit, with nothing else mimicking this effect. Well, for one, I wanted to clarify that the Final Smash will not remove the effect of certain equipable items, such as the bunny hood or etc. The reason why this is important to clarify is because of a comment I received by the Lobstercopter 5000 regarding the Instadrop spirit effect. The idea is that if you go 1000 or more seconds without getting KO'd, the effect will naturally disappear. That's about 16 minutes and 40 seconds. So to start the test, I had Mario just sit here in training mode for a little over 16 minutes. I tested the effect just to make sure it was still present and everything was normal. Then after about 10 more seconds, I found something weirder than I expected. It wasn't just that the hitbox of the effect was gone, the effect outright disappeared. No more fast falling or anything. And the crazy thing? This persisted even after being KO'd. It seems like it'll just permanently affect the match once it's gone. Yeah, unless you reset training mode. This is clearly different from the Peach Final Smash stuff. That simply affected the spirit's hitbox, but the fast fall was still present. So I guess this first fact technically has nothing to do with Final Smashes and is just about the spirit, but whatever, you don't care. So I was curious about other effects. As you can see, the Impact Run spirit was still working just fine, so this isn't some sort of universal effect timer. So I went into Custom Smash and turned on basically everything I could think of just to see what happens when these effects play out for a similar amount of time. And after 1000 seconds, we should be able to see if anything breaks. And what happens is that we can clearly see the moment the Instadrop effect breaks, yet nothing follows suit. I even left the game running for another 45 minutes after this, totaling over an hour, and still nothing changed. So, again, the Instadrop effect is uniquely weird and broken. And while I'm not sure this has anything to do with Peach's Final Smash, again because of how the way the effect goes away is different, there may be some common factor somewhere in there. And real quick, while we're talking about tests that take a long time to do, I was informed by Evil Cute Kitty that the fire on Sephiroth's victory screen will glitch out if left for a very long time. This is what it looks like normally, and with the footage that Evil Cute Kitty gave to me, we can see what it looks like after 2 weeks. Obviously, I wasn't going to leave my Switch in this state for more than 2 weeks because this is like my job, right? It's like asking a professional chef to, die. But I was at least curious to see if I could start seeing some glitches in a more reasonable time frame. So I left my Switch like this for a few hours when I went fishing. Look at this chunky pike I caught. And when I came back, nothing seemed particularly off. Granted, my Switch was put into sleep mode at some point during the trip, so just to be thorough, I decided to keep this going overnight, and then some. So after 12 hours or so, it looked like this. When I directly compare it to normal, I feel like I noticed a very slight difference in quality, but it's so slight that I'm not sure YouTube's compression is even going to let it show compared to just watching it natively. So I left it running for way longer, going from 24 hours, then to a sum total of 40 hours, which gave me this. And when you compare this to the normal one, it's pretty clearly chugging a bit more, you know, lower on the graphics and all that. And I'll leave a side-by-side comparison showing like just part of the fire. It's really kind of hard to help you guys visualize this, but if you're not seeing it, just trust me that there is a difference in quality here. But unfortunately, again, I do need to use this Switch for other things, so 40 hours is where I'm cutting it off. Though the results definitely do support the idea that the longer the victory screen is left active, the more the fire breaks, which is just hysterical. If anyone feels like leaving their Switch inactive for like a month or two or a year or a decade, then feel free to do that and just let me know what happens. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, none of that had to do with Final Smashes, so I'll get back onto that topic, okay? And yes, I will be getting the duck hunt soon. I just want to finish the follow-up stuff from my last video beforehand. You know, you can't invite guests over to the house without cleaning first, right? Unless you're like already clean, which I'm not. Anyways, to start that, in my last video I mentioned how hitting a cutscene Final Smash will reset a lot of states for everyone else, such as free fall or a shield break, etc. This does include held items too, those just disappear, and that's fun. Well, VarietyChan asked how this would interact with insta-KOs like Whack or Thwack. If a cutscene Final Smash gets triggered the moment an InstaKO happens, will the attack reset their state like we've seen for the others, or will it still play through? And the answer is that it'll still go through. Luigi was just stuck in purgatory for a little bit, but he did not cheat death. And I wanted to see if this was also true for taking knockback during the Final Smash, and again, this does not get reset. So this isn't an all-encompassing thing like I might have thought from beforehand. And lastly for this recap, in the last video I talked about how Bowser or Charizard can sort of freeze Pac-Man's Final Smash, and I mentioned how it could technically become a soft lock if you got the positioning perfect to last forever. It felt kinda silly to not try and get that positioning, so here's this. Pac-Man needs to be angled down a little bit and away from Bowser's body so that he don't get chomped on. And yeah, this seems to be a complete soft lock. I kept this going for about 15 minutes just to see if the game would break in any way. Cause this felt like the type of thing that might cause some strain, but I guess it's fine. Also, trying to count up how many points Pac-Man got from this, and with a rate of about 38 bytes per minute, that's about 570 after 15 minutes. And with each byte being worth 200 points, that's 114,000 points. Very good job! Unfortunately, nothing to add to the combo counter, though we can change that thanks to Pixel Blocks, who brought up something similar that involves Charizard's Flare Blitz. That being, if Bowser is given strong enough spirits to boost his damage output, the Fire Breath can actually have the same halting effect on Charizard's side special, and this one is way more lenient. Once again, it's straight up a soft lock, as long as Bowser's back is against a ledge. The fun thing about this one is that the damage is coming from Bowser directly, meaning the combo counter actually can register it as a combo for Bowser. So you can add this to the list of ways to grind up ludicrously high combos, which we always like to see on this channel. And I imagine both this and the Pac-Man thing can happen for different moves and environments, so just sort of consider these the blueprint ideas, if you will. Okay, finally getting to the juicy stuff. Cornswet had described in detail an insane technique with Duck Hunt's Final Smash on my Discord. As always, invite link is below if you want to join and submit your own facts. Normally, when you use Duck Hunt's down special, he'll hover in the air very slightly for a very short while. However, for some reason, under certain circumstances, the game doesn't remove your floating property for the duration of the move, and by using down special again and again, even if the gunmen are on cooldown, the floating property remains untouched. That's just sort of my logic here. The more practical way to see this is from the Angel platform. Yes, that's what this thing is called. And it's a bit more precise, but I did manage to get it semi-consistently by timing it to where the Angel platform had fully stopped going downwards, and I tried to hit down special immediately, without hitting the downwards part first and falling off. And this isn't very hard to maintain once you get it. You don't need to mash or anything, just use the move after the first one ends, and given how lenient input buffers are, there's hardly even any timing to it. I guess this happens because you're going from solid ground immediately to floating in the air, and maybe the game just gets confused on what state to put you in. Like maybe you're interrupting the check that makes you fall back down after the down special and just not letting the game correct itself. Regardless of reasoning, this is funny, but that's about it. This positioning is incredibly unsafe and easy to punish, and barring weird custom stages where the Angel platform is in an odd spot, this method is more of a taunt than anything else. Okay, I mean, the CPUs seem to really struggle against this. I guess their AI is expecting you to land, as gravity would normally do to an individual, so they can't really comprehend that not happening, which is actually really funny. Anyways, I'll talk more about the fundamentals later, as you might be screaming and yelling at your screen, PK Beats, what on earth does this have to do with Final Smashes? First off, I don't really like your tone. Go sit in the timeout corner for 10 minutes, okay? Alright. And second, as you might have been able to pick up on by now, the Final Smash actually works for this tech too. And you don't even have to land it. When the activation happens, I guess Duck Hunt is just floating in the air here. Probably put into some sort of unique state, and when this state ends, if you input the down special, the exact same thing happens. There's hardly even any timing here because buffering still works during this missed Final Smash animation, so it's super easy to actually do this. And you wanna know the best thing? It's so versatile. Realistically speaking, as long as you have your Final Smash, you can choose where you want Duck Hunt to float anywhere and do anything.
Wait a minute, did you say anything?
Yes, anything. The easiest idea would be going to the bottom blast zone, using the Final Smash, and just stalling there for, however long you want. The CPUs obviously have an incredibly hard time grasping this, which is hysterical to see on its own. However, while this is great positioning, it's not exactly foolproof, Anyone could technically just jump down there and try to hit you. They'll probably die as well, which still makes this technique really strong, but it's not necessarily a soft lock or complete stalling, which is why I developed a new but riskier idea. Simply put, if you're at high enough percent with a final smash and get knocked into the air a decent amount, burn your double jump to get as high as you possibly can, or whatever other method you have to get to the top, and stall there. This is just way better, as a lot of characters literally have no way to touch you. Some might be able to KO themselves and use the angel platform for the extra height, but even this is super limited. And note, while Duck Hunt is able to use a special attack out of their up B before going into freefall, if they use their final smash out of up B, they can't then spam down B to get stuck because they're forced into freefall. So that won't quite work. Though you can definitely catch someone off guard if they didn't know that fact about Duck Hunt before. So yes, the title and thumbnail are actually 100% true. In a quote-unquote practical environment, this makes Duck Hunt's final smash one of the best in the game. But not really in a cool or fun way. Like if Smash Meter Torments actually became a thing, this would have to just straight up be banned, I think. But it's not totally foolproof for the entire cast. For one, obviously anyone with a projectile good enough will be able to reach you mostly anywhere, making characters like these the only ones really consistently able to counter this type of stalling. Assuming Duck Hunt doesn't get himself stuck somewhere really stupid. And second, if your character can force a zoom in effect on their own, this could potentially mess up the timing of the Duck Hunt's inputs. Okay, well this one's a bit more of a stretch given how easy it is to buffer the inputs, but I mean it's better than literally nothing. Now given the idea that it's from Duck Hunt inputting the down special in a setting where he goes from floating to not floating, I did want to try a few other things to see if they also worked. I timed it with the disappearance of Steve's blocks to the frame, and I was never able to replicate it that way, so I guess simply having the ground disappear doesn't work. Additionally, I tried it out with the Super Leaf, and again, nothing ever caused it to happen. And, well, honestly that's about all I could think of. If anyone discovers any other methods, be sure to let me know down in the comments. And also let me know any other characters where the same thing could potentially happen. I tested out a few that I thought of and nothing else replicated it, but I could easily be missing some obvious tests. Also, if you're looking for something fun to do with this glitch that doesn't involve timing people out and essentially being evil or like a Sonic player, I'd recommend going into a match with 7 CPUs and just watching how all of them react to you being out of reach. They'll sort of conglomerate to the ledge and just be completely unable to touch you. It's really funny. Alright, now before we get into the last thing, I want to talk about that hypothetical Final Smash tier list idea I brought up in the previous upload. I kind of want your opinions on how that would work, because in my mind there's 4 different ways to approach a tier list like that. The first 2 approaches being based on vibes or aesthetic, either judging based on how cool they look, or based on how unique they are. Or I guess maybe both, because the latter of which would get really boring given how 80% of the roster has, the same Final Smash. And the other 2 approaches are based on the practicality of how good the Final Smash is. One being in a vacuum, like how good it is on its own, regardless of which character has it, and the other being how good the Final Smash is with the character's full toolkit. For example, in the former, Duck Hunt's Final Smash doesn't mean anything, since I imagined his glitch would be able to work with any kind of Final Smash, honestly, so it specifically wouldn't be high on the tier list. However, with the latter approach, Duck Hunt's Final Smash suddenly becomes S tier, given that you can potentially stall an entire match with it, thanks to the tech paired with his down special. Frankly, for the latter one, I'm not sure if I have the experience with literally every character to determine how good their Final Smash is with the rest of their toolkit, but maybe I could do a mix of the 2 ideas, judge them in a vacuum, but any major character-specific tech can still be factored in. There's very interesting math to bring up specifically with the Final Smash meters, as the multipliers given to them to make them weaker than their normal counterpart is actually not universal, and some characters have different numbers than others, which I think could potentially affect their strength. But yeah, just let me know what you'd be more interested in seeing. Anyways, the last Final Smash thing for this video is something that Winter Arcanine discovered with Training Mode Final Smashes. Basically, going into our battle stats, let's choose, Toon Link. His current number of Final Smashes used is 111, with his KOs from Final Smashes being at a whopping 0. Now I'm just going to head straight into Training Mode and use a Final Smash to KO Ganondorf, then head back to the stats. The KOs from Final Smashes stay at 0, yet the number of Final Smashes being used is now 112. This Final Smash stat is the odd one out, by the way, not the KO, because basically any stat in this page is unaffected by Training Mode happenings. I'm not going to bore you with the specific numbers and tests and stuff, but just to be thorough, I did go through a ton of these stats before and after going into training mode, and literally none of them changed at all, except for the number of final smashes used. And what's funny is that it counted both of my uses here, even the one that didn't land. So while training mode normally doesn't count towards your actual battle stats, for obvious reasons, this is an incredibly weird exception. I can't imagine it's intentional, and frankly, it's super funny because this means if you want to, like, inflate your battle stats in any way, you can just farm a bunch of final smashes here and get your numbers up. Like, I don't know why you would want to do that, but maybe you have someone to impress in your life. Also, we already know that this doesn't work for CPUs. One, because in my Ice Climber CPU test from the last video, I know they and Bowser got well over 100 final smashes used, yet these stats are way lower than that. And also, if we go into training mode and use the CPU player, and they use a final smash, it doesn't get registered here. This is for if it's an actual CPU, and if I'm the one controlling the CPU. And ain't that just the darndest thing? And I think that's where we can end today's amazingly incredible video. I'm glad y'all liked my last upload in its format. I was gonna use today's video to go over even more old Final Smash stuff in that same way, but honestly all the new stuff took up a lot of time and space, which I'm thankful for. And if you haven't noticed, yeah, I'm hoping to get back to a more frequent upload pace, sort of like the good old days.
Like the good old days after 9/11.
We'll see exactly how well that turns out, but I seriously want a better workflow in my life, so I'm hoping to stick to it. So yeah, again, please let me know your thoughts on that whole Final Smash tier list idea, because after this video goes live, I'm probably going to start working on that one. I'll organize a general idea for the list, then stream myself talking about it and put everyone in position. You know, something a little bit more easy and fun. I really do think my channel could use more of those kinds of uploads. I used to do that a lot in the past, so I think I'd like to get back to it. Anyways, that'll do it, and I'd like to thank my favoritist of all beloved patrons, Raighne, Soul700, Wescott Reed, Burbo, and everyone else for their massive support. Stay casual, and I'll see y'all later.